Friends, good morning. We are discussing the notion of data. Data is the facts and figures relating to particular phenomenon under study. Data is a set of values of subjects with respect to qualitative or quantitative variables. We will see what is actually meant by qualitative and quantitative variables in our next session. The data in the original form before any statistical technique is used to refine, process or summarize is called raw data. Data is in a raw form. It is unorganized facts that need to be processed. When data is processed, organized, structured or presented in a given context so as to make it useful, it is called information. And information is necessary for research activities, and these are achieved in different forms. So these are the various types of data. And in our previous session, we have seen some of these types of data. So one is a categorical data. So categorical data means the responses that belong to groups or categories like healthy, sick, male, female, poor, rich, etc. So there are some information which is in the numerical form. So that is known as numerical data. So numerical value as a response in the numerical data. The another one is a qualitative data. Qualitative data means there are some characteristics which are non-measurable. So those characteristics which are non-measurable comes under qualitative data. A qualitative characteristic like sex, nationality, religion, grade in examination, beauty and blood group. So these are nothing but the attributes. So any qualitative characteristics is called as attribute. So the qualitative data or the attributes can be measured in two ways. One is a nominal way and the another one is a ordinal way. The nominal way is only for the identification, and in ordinal case we are arranging this in a particular order. So another one is a quantitative data. Quantitative data means there are some characteristics in the universe which we can measure. We can measure in a particular unit, and these measurable characteristics can be measured in two ways. So one is a interval data, another one is a ratio data. So the temperature can be measured in degree Celsius or in Fahrenheit. This is the unit of measurement, and the temperature is the standard example of a interval data. So measurable in the sense weight is measurable, height is measurable, salary is measurable. So we can measure this in rupees. Another one is a ratio data. So in ratio data, all the characteristics which we can measure having all the operators. So that means we can take in ratio data all the mathematical operators. That is, we can add this data, we can subtract this data, we can divide this data, we can multiply this data. So all the mathematical operations are operated on a particular characteristics. Then this is nothing but a ratio data. So there is one more type of data, that is nothing but cross-sectional data. Cross-sectional data is a data at a particular point of time. So suppose today is 11th January. So at this moment, the event, what event is happening, so that is recorded. This recorded event is nothing but the cross-sectional data. We can relate this data in future or we can relate this data in past. So cross-sectional data means anything we are collecting at a particular period of time. Another one is a time series data. That is also known as longitudinal data. So in time series data, the arrangement of statistical data in chronological order with respect to time. So we are writing the data, we are collecting the data with respect to time. That is time series data. Example, we can collect the production of a company for 10 years. This is the production in 2001, 2002, 2003 up to 2010. So we can take this in according to time. In time series data, time factor is very important. And time may be anything. Time may be second, time may be minute, or time may be years, or time may be decades. So anything we can arranging according to time is known as time series data. Finally, one more type of data is there, that is nothing but spatial data. First, spatial data is nothing but the data which we can classify according to geographical region. So there are the population, we can divide this according to geographical region. Geographical region in the sense we can divide the data according to country wise, according to district wise, according to villages, according to households. These are comes under spatial data. We have seen what is meant by primary data in our previous session. And also we have discussed the methods of collecting primary data. So one method is direct personal interview. Another one is direct oral investigation. All this comes under interview method. In interview method, there is direct personal interview, indirect oral investigation, cross examination. The interview may be structured, interview may be unstructured, interview may be focused, may be unfocused. Another method of collecting primary data is telephone interview. So that also we have seen in our previous session. And one more is observation method. There are different ways of getting information according to observation method. One is structured method, another one is unstructured method, participant, non-participant, disguised, uncontrolled, controlled. One more method of collecting primary data is questionnaire method. In questionnaire method, we are preparing a list of questions and these questions may be filled up by the corresponding respondents. Today, we'll discuss secondary data. We have seen primary data. Today we are discussing secondary data. Secondary data is not original in nature. This is actually the secondary in nature. So secondary in the nature means someone has collected the data, has used that data, processed that data for his sake of purpose, and after that he gives the data to another person. A has collected the data, has used that particular data for his research purpose. Afterwards, the same data can be used by another person, B. For B, the data is secondary. In secondary, it's not original in nature. Data collected may be tabulated, it may be classified, it may be ordered, it may be processed by someone else. It is also called as processed or finished data. Secondary data needs comparatively less funds because we are not using questionnaire method or a interview method, and the funds we are directly taken from someone who has collected the information. So it may be taken from websites, it may be taken from some big organizations, international companies. That is taken from websites, their websites. So therefore, it needs comparatively less funds. Some other investigating agency collects it from its own use. Secondary data requires less time for collection. It is less reliable, suitable, as someone else has done that job of collection which may not serve the purpose of the another person. There is no need of any organizational setup. Secondary data need more care and attention because person who has collected this information for his objectives may be different from the person who is using that particular data. Therefore, it needs more care and attention while using secondary data. One more thing in secondary data is the information relates to a past period. So that is not for the current scenario. That is not useful for the current period. So current scenario is different from the past period. There are various ways of getting secondary data. Secondary data there are main sources of secondary data. One is internal source, the another one is external source. Internal source means, so internal in the sense, so suppose there is a big organization and the organization is using their information for their purpose. So some departments collected the information and this information is circulated in the organization, and maybe another department is using that information. So that is internal source. Internal in the sense, so that is used for only internal purposes. In some cases, these information are published externally, and some other organization is using that of information. So that is called as an external source of information. Some data are published, some are unpublished. Published in the sense they are available publicly, and unpublished means they are not available for normal people, so normal researcher. So these are not available. For example, publications from RBI, Bank of India, Central Statistical Organization, National Sample Survey, Geographical Institutes, Research Institutes, etc. Publishing the data, one may use visiting their websites. The data can be used. There are the international organizations like United Nations of Organizations, World Health Organizations, UNESCO, publishing the data. Boards of municipal corporations, Parishad and similar other organizations also collecting the information and they are publishing the data periodically. Reports of Chambers of Commerce, stock exchanges, University Grants Commission, these are also the secondary source of information. We are reading newspapers and again we are getting some information from newspapers, journals, periodicals. They are also providing the required data. So these are all the sources of secondary data. Friends, we will stop here, continue with the next point as attributes and variable in our next session. Till then, goodbye.